Looking back, I see a lot of my old high school bullies jocks are leading horrible lives of endless crappy jobs and pregnant, bitchy girlfriends. Anyone have any examples of real life bully karma? A kid that bullied me pretty mercilessly in middle school emailed me a while ago. He told me that a lot had happened to him that made him look back on his life. His fiancée had cheated on him while he was in Afghanistan and had been preventing him from seeing his children, etc. And he realized how cruel he had been back then. He apologized and, 9 years later, we met up, had a couple of beers, and established a tenuous friendship. It feels good. Nice. Seems like he matured quite a bit. Unfortunate it took some traumatic events to make it happen. The biggest bully from my grammar school is now an exterminator. 30 years later, he still can't pick on anyone his own size. That's practically poetic. One fellow who used to bully me all the time throughout the school wrote a long paragraph of apology in the yearbook and wished me luck. He is doing alright now. My old bully died in a fraternity hazing accident. I was picked on in high school by this guy, but joke's on him, he spends his whole day making stupid comments on Reddit. A fate I wouldn't wish on anyone. This varsity wrestler beat me up in his super senior year of high school when I was a sophomore. When I was a senior I took his little sister to prom, got lucky multiple times that prom weekend, and a few times on his living room couch later. I don't know what happened to the bullies in high school cause I don't care about them. A lot of the bullies from my school became cops, mostly because the police academy at the community college was the easiest thing to get into besides the photography department. My mother did inform me, I don't live in the same town anymore. That one guy, that once broke a friend of mine's arm while waiting for the bus, became a cop and recently tasered an innocent dude while he was having a smoke breakout behind his workplace. Now the smoking guy is suing him in the city for a whole bunch of money and will probably win. That's bully karma at its finest. Life unfortunately doesn't quite work that way. One of my classmates was a cheerleader in high school, then a cheerleader for a national basketball team, then in jail for something like domestic abuse. Another got into and attended MIT, dropped out, became a successful male fashion model. What's the point? High school is such an unstable time for folks. People tend to change a lot in the years following high school. As much fun as it is to see a jerk get their due, I think that people that look to see how their bullies turned out care way too much about what happened in the past. The one bully who terrorized me, but who was a gifted student, saw me in the gym and actually came up to apologize about the way he treated me in our youth. I was somewhat sad to find out he was working as a busboy because it seems like his intellect is being wasted. I accepted his apology, but it doesn't make the memories go away. Grammar. Choose to remember your strength and adaptability instead. If you never knew how bad bullying made you feel, you might have done it to someone else. There was this guy, we will call him Jose, who was a big gangster in junior high and high school. He was already shaving and had a goatee in junior high and he had the pick of the ladies in the school. He was very cocky, rude to everyone, and just a general prick. I had him for a couple of classes but steered clear of him for the most part, but we knew of each other. Fast forward 2 years after graduation, I run into him at a Taco Bueno. He is working as a painter with a bunch of illegals and his face is jacked. He smiled and shook my hand when he saw me, told me that after high school about 10 guys that he messed with all throughout school got together and jumped him. He spent 3 weeks in the hospital and had to go to physical therapy. That's some direct retribution right there. I'd say it's a 50/50 split. Plenty of the biggest buttholes grew up and got great jobs, and make much more than you. The phenomenon you reference probably has a lot to do with the reasons they were bullying in the first place. They probably had all sorts of horrible fricked up crap happening at home, and bullying is the easiest way for an adolescent to pass on the pain and deal with it. Those sort of situations led to all sorts of issues that will ultimately sabotage their attempts to lead normal, productive lives. Sharing this with my 12-year-old son. I apologize for my foul language. My husband and I took a trip to TX to see his daughter from his previous marriage. On the way there, he told me about this one friend of the ex's family that used to hang around that I would meet at this little reunion. One day, husband and dude were walking down the sidewalk and happen across a cat. Dude picks up the cat by the scruff of the neck and body slams it to the sidewalk, then laughs as the poor creature writhes in pain. Now, my husband would never hurt a creature, but he also did not say anything to dude because my husband is small and dude was huge and also had a temper. Of course, I'm absolutely disgusted and I hate this man that I've never met. I'll mention that husband had not seen or heard from this guy in over 20 years, so this was a long time span. Turns out, dude was in a construction accident and hurt his back permanently. He is in constant pain all the time. He wears a morphine patch and probably takes a handful of RX painkillers, and maybe some that are not RX, every day to manage the pain, but nothing totally gets rid of the pain. That is sweet karma. TLDR. Dude breaks a cat's back for jollies, ends up with permanent back damage. I want to straight up bludgeon any people who hurt animals like that. During my elementary and junior high school years, a group of guys were relentless bullies, but one guy was especially horrible to me. They beat me up regularly and constantly ridiculed me for being gay. I wasn't out yet though, and for taking advanced math courses at the community college. I'm now 22 and graduated with a double major and double minor from a top university. Have a great job and I'm a proud gay man. He dropped out of high school, became a drug dealer and got arrested multiple times. To be clear, my upvote is for your success. Screw the bully. He never turned his sad life around, but you sir, are amazing. One bloke stabbed me in the chest because I'm a gay. He promptly died 3 weeks later. Drug OD they say. All the douchebags and bullies from my high school are now successful lawyers, traders, doctors. It would seem that bullying and being douches gave them the skills to step over people to get to the top. A good 50% of the girls in my graduating class were knocked up within a year of high school. I didn't really have anything against most of them, really, but holy crap are they stupid. Sounds like my hometown. So many stupid babies just waiting to be born. I was a bully in high school. Karma hit me with a H problem by 23. I really gave myself a H problem, to be honest. Although I'm clean now and I have an advanced degree and in law school, so meh, it comes around. I'm not in butthole anymore. There was this butthole a year ahead of me named Justin. He was an all-around dickwad. He once put a Ziploc bag full of vegetable oil in my backpack, which later popped open and ruined all my crap. Also the constant torment kinda sucked. 2 years ago, I was home from college for spring break. My great-grandmother had just died, so I was suited the frick up. I was also left her Mercedes-Benz, which I sold to help pay for my student loans. Couldn't afford the insurance taxes. So there I am, pulled into a Hess station in a black Benz E320, wearing a black business suit and a very nice silk tie. At the pump opposite me was this freaking douchebag, filling up a rusted out Monte Carlo wearing what looked like overalls. He'd seen me. I decided to be a dong. As I started the car, I rolled down their window and whistled at him. He turned around, and I gave him the finger and yelled, "Hey Justin, right here, buddy. It's my crowning achievement." When I was in 6th grade, a boy threatened to stab me with a box cutter in tech ed class. Of course the teacher didn't take too kindly to this and he was sent to the office and punished. The next day in school, his older sister, who was in 8th grade and twice my size, came up behind me in the hallway and shoved me. From then on she made fun of me, calling me ugly and a lesbian because I had short hair and played sports and video games. She was really preppy, shallow, obsessed with her appearance and had lots of boyfriends. I recall her and her friends playing with condoms in the back of the bus, if that gives you any idea of what she's like. I recently came across pictures of her on Facebook in a friend's album. She has gained weight and her eyes looked sad and dead in all the pictures. On the other hand, I went on to become a fairly successful model and I'm happy and confident in who I am. TLDR. Was bullied for being a tomboy. Got called ugly and dark a lot. I went on to model and she got fat. Nah, here's what I noticed. Alpha guys, jocks who were not charismatic ended up with sales jobs. The popular kids who came from well-to-do families are mostly in well-to-do positions of power and influence even if they were crappy students. The smart, nerdy kids grew into themselves and became successful, desirable adults. Some of them became knockouts, either in the looks department or career-wise. The dead-end kids, of which bullies share some overlap with, all have sad stories. Bad luck, karma, and poor choices conspired to put them in a place with a bleak future and an equally bleak present. Had one when I was younger. I was dressed up in a nice suit, going to my parents' country club for Easter brunch and had my girlfriend with me, who was pretty attractive. I was working and also had just bought a Eclipse convertible. Stopped at a White Hen to get a pack of cigarettes, and my biggest middle school bully was working there. He took one look at me, and then looked out at my car, top down, hot girl, and just shook his head. I paid and didn't say a word to him and left, but it was a pretty incredible day. This guy had made my life a living heck for 3 years before I left and got bused to a private high school 15 miles away in another town. TLDR. Saw middle school bully when I was high on life. Ultimate closure. Probably shaking his head at you driving an Eclipse convertible. Please tell me you took the next step and had your tubes tied. There was a bully at the high school I went to that seemed to get away with murder. This guy did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, to whomever he wanted, and I never once saw him get in any trouble. He and another of his little pack even jumped my buddy in the locker room once, and somehow my friend ended up with the suspension, while they got away scot-free. Anyways, fast forward about 6 years. This bully is still in our town, and from what I'd hear, still being in butt. He was driving home from somewhere one day about 5 AM, presumably fricked up as all heck. He still had somewhat of a reputation for being a hardcore partier. He hits an old man out on a jog and drives away. The next morning there is a story in the paper about a police officer, mere days from retirement, that was killed in a hit and run early the previous morning. The former bully gets caught because he was in his work van and tried to explain away the man-shaped dent in the front by saying he hit a deer. So when his boss is about to turn him in, Mr. Bully goes down to the police station in another county, where apparently his grandfather was some kind of bigwig, and turns himself in, still insisting he didn't do it. Unfortunately for him, while he was talking to someone on the phone, a small group of police officers overhear him on the phone saying, "I'm in a lot of trouble. That guy I hit died. He's doing all kinds of hard time now." Grade school was not easy for me. I was a little different at a small Catholic school, maybe about 20 kids. I had one friend named Scott who got along with everyone, but the rest of guys either didn't care for me or would be generally negative towards me in our interactions inside and outside of class. Nothing physical, but from my memory it was always about me being worse than they were at things. Sports, school etc. or stupid in the things I said, asking me questions and mocking my answers. One named Josh, who seemed to hate most everything about me, lived in my neighborhood and I would generally avoid him. I ended up switching to one of the public middle schools and found a much more welcoming peer group. Time went on and one Monday in high school I came in the morning and noticed a lot of the girls were crying. This was a decently small town, so the student bodies of the public and Catholic schools knew each other well for the most part. Josh was pretty well liked by most other people and had a circle of friends at my school. I'm unnerved by there being more than a few girls in the hallway crying, but don't think much of it. My first period class was bio and I sat next to a girl named Amber who I had enjoyed a friendly rapport with for most of the semester, as bio wasn't really her strong suit. I came in, sat down and noticed that her makeup was smeared and finally had to ask what had happened. She and Josh were very close and she told me that he had been in a car accident on Sunday and had died. I would later learn that he was driving to visit friends that lived outside of town and had carelessly driven through a train intersection that doesn't have gate arms. Apparently he didn't bother to stop and look for an oncoming train and had his stereo up loud enough that he didn't hear it either. The train hit his car and he was thrown from the vehicle, presumably dying on impact or shortly thereafter. I would also later learn that this train had a camera installed on the front of it and they provided his family with the footage of the collision for legal reasons. I still can't imagine the horror his mother had to go through watching that video. I went to his wake and remember feeling pretty numb. I had hated this guy so much for a significant portion of my life, but I had a surge of feeling that I didn't really believe that he deserved to die at 16. The wake was a pretty surreal experience for me. I was surrounded by those who had either bullied me or were indifferent about my existence for several formative years for me. I was watching them in pain for losing a friend and peer. I couldn't feel spite or hate for them anymore. They were human beings who were grieving the death of another. I just look back and see that even as children they were people. Some people are terrible, some people can show goodness. How nice of you. I would have to resist every urge to laugh at his death to their faces. I probably would cave to my temptation. Riding the bus in middle school was heck. Two boys in particular were the worst. They were the overgrown type of 13-year-olds who looked like 30-somethings, and they absolutely terrified me. I was the go-to girl to make fun of in general at that school, but the bus rides were terrifying. I found out the camera at the front of the bus never actually records when I went to the principal for help and was told they couldn't do anything about it. These boys pulled out their dongs and tried to get me to look at them, sang songs about how disgusting I was, slammed me into the back window of the bus, literally tossed me around until I had bruises on my arms and legs, etc. And all the bus driver did was tell them to be quiet. Frick public school. I didn't tell my mom what was happening until 8th grade graduation because I figured if the principal couldn't help me, she couldn't either. It was completely fricked. One of those guys ended up with a felony, if I'm remembering correctly, for stealing a Rolls-Royce Phantom and trying to sell it the same day. Apparently the owner saw the car in a parking lot about 2 blocks from his house. Your engineers have a great life. At my 10-year reunion, a woman apologized for pulling a prank on me. In 11th grade, someone had handed me a paintball but told me it was a gumball. Having never seen a paintball before, I popped it in my mouth without hesitation and proceeded to swallow latex paint and then vomit up my entire lunch. She told me she felt terrible, but I never knew it had been her idea to do it. I laugh about it now, and forgave her immediately. TLDR. 11-year-old prank apologized for and forgiven. Mine had a heart attack at 24. Turns out steroids, and brawling was a bad combo. My cousin married a great guy a few years back who grew up in the town over from me. One day he asked me if I knew a certain name, because the guy had gone to my high school. Sure enough, it was the guy who tormented me in elementary school, and was too jacked for me to fight in high school, whose name I hoped never to hear again. Apparently the two of them worked in the same office. It was soon after my cousin's marriage and I didn't want to act like I was whining to someone who was now family. So I said, yeah, we went to elementary school together. I can't really speak to anything about him since. Fast forward about a year, and I'm hanging out with the new cousin-in-law again. He says, oh by the way, you hated, didn't you? He had figured it out by my response. I try to make a point of praising people who aren't around, and I'm sort of upbeat in general, and, since he already knew, I admitted it and told him some horror stories. Oh, you're gonna love this then, he says. Turns out they didn't just work in the same office. My cousin-in-law was the dude's boss. He had only hired him as a favor to someone else, thinking maybe he was just in a bad situation elsewhere. But nope, he was a terrible employee and was right on the cusp of being fired. So when my cousin-in-law asked me about him and I clearly had nothing good to say, that decided it. I'd like to say that a part of me regrets even the small part I played in revenge on this guy, but really I don't regret it at all, and I just love the fact that it played out exactly as the 9-year-old me would have liked. It gets better. TLDR. My old bully got fired, at least in part because he bullied me. Mostly he built his own cage, though. Had he been a decent guy, you'd have never heard about it. Had he gotten his butt handed to him a couple of times, he might have done that. Kick bullies' asses. It's a public service, and good for them later in life. We had no bullies per se. We had a famous killer and an even more famous criminal in my high school, but they were cool to me. But the people who were jerks and buttholes pretty much turned out to have crappy lives. It's only idiots who think that liars and cheats get ahead. In reality, people see through their crap and don't want anything to do with them. Maybe not the karma you're looking for, but here it goes. I got in a fist fight with a friend over them ragging on me 24/7 for a couple years. The subsequent fallout with the group just led to a bunch of problems with me trying to find new friends when I was 13-15. Man, it really sucked. One day when I was 18 and on my way home from orchestra, I pulled into a McDonald's for a burger. Turns out he was working the register and looked at me with the most sincere smile and said, "Hey Mark, I haven't seen you in forever. How are things? We should catch up sometime. Sorry about the past." I was dumbfounded, said something like, "Yeah, thanks man. Sure thing." Maybe that wasn't so much about karma, but it was nice to see the guy really changed. Some people get more mature and realize they were buttholes. Others continue to be dongs and blame the world for their problems. In high school, the quarterback of our football team was an all-star named Hunter Wall. He was a piece of crap who liked to frick with underclassmen and people that were smaller than him. He got a scholarship to play for OU, which he quickly lost after being arrested for breaking into someone's home and stealing marijuana, easily found on Google. Also, at one point, an opposing football team spray painted Hunter Wall as a dong in huge letters on the side of an abandoned but very visible gas station in the middle of town. Rarely have I laughed harder at a local news story. Glad to hear he really was a pose. Makes me feel better that we didn't lose a true talent. I got bullied to crap throughout all of my school years. I was always the bigger girl. I never had pretty hair, never had pretty clothes, and I never acted like a girl. I'd rather have been out playing footy with the boys and playing computer games. Well, secondary school was supposed to be the big break for me. Yeah, like frick was it. The first 3 years of high school were living heck because of a guy who started all the crap who was 4 years ahead of me in school. This is where my anxiety stemmed from. I got picked on and constantly abused by kids 3-4 years older than me. One stupid bee decided to start a fight with me on the bus for no reason, claiming I was talking to her cousin when he blatantly admitted he doesn't even know her. I stood there, took the pushing about, then lost it and walk off at the first stop. Fast forward 3 years after I left school. I'm chatting to an old school friend I bumped into at a supermarket and had a catch up. We weren't great friends and she was a bit of a bee in school, but she explained about her mental health and what she went through, and I understood completely where she was coming from. Well, stupid bee who started on me 4 years before did the whole OMG, hey I haven't seen you in years, how are you doing, OMG you ride a motorbike, that is so cool, can I sit on it? My response, frick off. She seemed confused and started babbling on and I just replied with frick off. I never forgot what you did to me. I wish I'd kicked the crap out of you then and I still would now, so sit down and shut the frick up. I was talking and you interrupted. She obeyed and it felt good. I don't care if I get downvotes or hated for it, but she was a C and she made my life heck then, and I am still dealing with what happened to me. I didn't really have high school bullies, as the first 2 years of high school I was a recluse, but the people that did give me crap I can take comfort after running into them at parties that I'm more successful, on my way to a good career, doing something with my life, way more physically stronger than them. I know it sounds vain, but in high school this was always flaunted in front of me. Little did I know I was extremely late bloomer, and everyone likes me for being a nice person, as opposed to high school where you were often persecuted for it. Basically everything they tried to obtain in high school I've obtained in reality. My middle school bully went to Princeton and is still a complete butthole. Oh, karma, you said? That crap doesn't exist. All through middle school and high school, there was this cheerleader named Nicole who tormented me every day. Horrible, mean bee. Fast forward 3 years after graduation, I'm working at a prestigious daycare center for high-income families. A very well-known center in my area, making the big bucks. On my lunch break one day, I was craving something greasy and terrible for me, so I rolled through the drive-thru at Wendy's, still wearing my work uniform with the unmistakable logo on the shirt, when lo and behold, Nicole hands me my food. She saw me, she knew who I was, she also saw the shirt, and the karma is a fiery C just like you smirk on my face. She was visibly embarrassed. Fast food has never been so delicious. Moral of the story, now I'm freaking starving and I want a cheeseburger. Till there are prestigious daycares. One of the biggest buttholes and idiots I ever knew in high school is now a full-time Bible thumper walking door to door trying to preach. Does that count? Yes. My junior year of high school, a girl spread rumors that I fricked a guy on a trampoline at a party. This lie almost ruined my relationship with my boyfriend. After this she had the nerve to ask me why I didn't get her a birthday present. Once I got past the absurdity of it, I was pretty angry. Cut to present day. I'm a senior a month away from graduation. I'm headed to college in Oregon. She's got herpes, a kid and no diploma. Checkmate. B. Just noticed that the cool kid of my graduating class said this on Facebook. Background check and drug test came back clean, so I start orientation on Friday for Walmart. I am truly blessed. Sick. By the way, got 10 likes. This girl who humiliated me for asking her out ended up getting pregnant with twins and couldn't continue high school. Well dodged, sir. I think the two I'm thinking of were kind of bullyish for a lot of people, but now one is a dermatologist and the other is a cardiologist. Proof that while some bullying is skin deep, other types can go straight to the heart. A girl that punched me in the face in high school is now pregnant by a guy that I dated first. How does my pee taste? B. I know this one will probably be buried, but I had the exact opposite of bully karma. I got to watch my bully ride the bench of the Indianapolis Colts as they won the Super Bowl. He has a ring. I will never ever go to a high school reunion ever again. Most of the girls that teased me in high school are now single mothers who still live at home, or they recently graduated college and are working at places like Walmart. I, on the other hand, will be married for 3 years on the 18th. Have 2 beautiful daughters and own my own home. Feels good, man. My high school bully is battling breast cancer right now. I don't get any satisfaction from this. That's terrible. Nobody deserves that, comma. Only one guy bullied me for a bit. He ended up marrying into money and now drives a freaking Lamborghini while I serve up freaking cough at Starbucks. Epic win colon. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.